I mean, Mirror and Razor Blade.
Hey, everybody. It is Thursday, and we're here doing something a little bit special here on Weird Realities. So, I'm Hadley Thorne. Y'all know Scott, Rich, Cecil, I should say, Bethany Stutzman. And Rich, would you do the honors of introducing our esteemed guest?
Well, we do have an esteemed guest. We have Mr. Chris Margetis.
Hey guys, how we doing tonight?
Actor, wrestler, fighter. He's the man. Writer, and he starred in his very own movie a little while ago, and we reviewed the movie. Was it last week or the week before? It was relatively recently.
Week before.
And Chris stumbled across us, and here he is.
Well, guys, thanks so much for having me on. This is pretty cool. It's nice to meet all of you, and let's get to it, man. Let's talk. I'm excited.
Well, I've got to ask, what was your inspiration for this movie?
Wow. So, my partner Mike and I, who played.
Let's yell out what the movie is first, Chris.
Oh, okay.
Introduce the movie first.
So the movie is the Manson Brothers Midnight Zombie Massacre, which is arguably one of the longest titles in the history of independent film. We did it that way on purpose because my partner and I, Mike, and we'll go into all the machinations, but we used to watch all those like Santo and so-and-so versus the Vampire Women and all that kind of stuff. So when we started doing this, we were kind of patterning it after Santo and Blue Demon. As a matter of fact, if you see the masks, that's why we did them in blue and silver.
That's awesome.
So, yeah, I mean, from an inspiration perspective, Mike, who plays Stone, Mike Carey, my brother in the film, he and I were actually both professional wrestlers back in, oh my God, longer than I care to admit ago. Let's put it this way. Anybody that you see that's a wrestler now who's in films wasn't even wrestling when Mike and I were wrestling. So that's how long ago it was. We were actually both. My name was Stone Manson. His name was Skull Manson. We were never actually tag team together. I actually took Mike's place when he left to join the fire department. I was an up-and-comer, and he suggested that his group called the Brotherhood, which was patterned after the movie Stone Cold with Brian Bosworth, if you remember that.
Oh, yeah.
From way back when. So I was Chris Stone. That was my original name, and that was after John Stone from Stone Cold. And then they were the Brotherhood, which was patterned after that as well. So it was kind of like hand in glove. When he was leaving, he's like, hey, you guys should take this guy on. The next thing you know, I'm wearing leather and dressing like I'm in, the Village People. So, so fast forward about 5-6 years, I had the WWE bought out the WCW, if you guys are into wrestling at all or remember that.
Yeah.
And so really all the jobs really got cut down, and I was, that's kind of the thing that I was trying to do, was work my way up. So I effectively retired from wrestling. I went into color commentary for a while. Then I got married, had some kids. Hey, Alan, how we doing, buddy?
Hey, Alan.
Good to see you.
Perfect. He comes in,
You're right.
unmuted, and goes.
Well, you actually, it's perfect because this is the longest story of all time. So you came in, you cut out all the fodder. So it's good. So anyway, to make a really long story longer, probably, I just started doing some acting, and I was living in Chicago at the time. I started doing some acting in Chicago. My partner Mike was actually doing acting too, but he and I didn't talk for like a decade. And then I moved to California. The last time I saw him was his bachelor party, the night before I moved to LA. So then we didn't see each other for forever. So I was in this really, really low budget independent film called Frankenstein: Day of the Beast. And it just so happened that this premiered at a theater in Chicago that Mike's buddy was the projectionist at, and somebody left the film behind. And his buddy grabs it. They start watching the movie, and he's like, I swear to God, I recognize this guy. I know him. And his buddy's like, yeah, right, whatever. He calls me, and he's like, I'm watching a Frankenstein movie, and I swear this is you. And I said, yeah, it's me. So one more story. He gets a job on a show on NBC. It gets canceled after one season. He flies out here to see everybody. We get together. We wind up doing a lockup when we were half in the bag at a big party, and everybody goes bananas. And the next day we're like, we got to write something. and thus was the first day that we started writing the Manson Brothers Midnight Zombie Massacre. So that was the inspiration. That's the lengthy inspiration for that.
I got a question for Scott.
Yes.
I got Chris. Hold on, Chris. I got plenty of questions for you, but Scott, have you seen that Frankenstein movie? Scott
No.
loves those movies.
No, but I was going to ask you for the name of it again so I can watch it.
It's called Frankenstein: Day of the Beast.
Is it on YouTube, Tubi, or anything like that?
I actually do think it's on Tubi. Yes.
All right. We're gonna look that one up, man, and we're gonna watch it.
Review it.
Oh, Lord.
Your guys' movie was a lot of fun.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that.
It was.
That's what we're going for when we make them. We want to make them well and we want to make them good, but entertaining and fun is the number one thing. Like that's our, kind of mantra of when we come up with the ideas, they have to be fun.
So here's a question for you.
Okay.
Did you have a lot of fun making the movie? Because that
my
looks
God.
like a movie that would have been a blast to make.
Well, so it's funny because I get asked this all the time because I'm a producer and I'm a writer and I do all that other crap. The 17 days of actually shooting the movie were, incredibly hard work and long hours, but it was an absolute blast from start to finish. And in a film like that, when you've got guys like Randy Couture and Bas Rutten and the guy named Dave Meadows who plays the antagonist in the film, who was a Navy SEAL sniper. There's just a million alpha males on set, and yet everybody was just as cool and friendly. And, it was the best. I'm scared to do another one because I don't think it can ever be, like that type of cohesiveness on a set. Yeah, it was great. And a big part of that was Max Martini, who I'm sure you guys have heard of, who was our director who kind of, gelled the whole thing. And, it was awesome. It was a lot of fun.
Well, how'd you guys get Adrian Pasdar and DB Sweeney?
Yeah.
Besides the obvious.
Well, Max had all of the connections because Max has been doing films and TV for 20 years. He's worked with every huge director there is, and he had done a pilot with DB a while back, and he's really good friends with Adrian for like 20 years. So he made phone calls and, hey, can you guys come and do it? And they snapped in, and those two guys, I will say this, they came. Like DB showed up with the suit that he's got on. He showed up with a toupee. He had a toupee made. He doesn't need one, but he had it anyway. And Adrian showed up with the canister. I mean, they just showed up ready to roll into these characters. It was insane.
Full circle.
And I'll tell you what was really important about that too is, I was the most novice guy on the whole film. Mike was probably number 2. And it was so nice to have guys like that who are such great actors around us, because the rising tide raises all the boats, and it was really important. It was cool.
I think that's what was so fun is every time you were watching it, just around the corner there was someone else that you were like, oh, I know that guy, and I know that guy, and you're like, what? Like I wasn't expecting these people in this film, but it's awesome.
Yeah, we were very fortunate to have that, and again, I think one of the things that separates it from other films in kind of the genre of whatever you want to call it, zombie, horror, gore, whatever, is that we had, a lot of names that were very good actors. And, I think it really assisted in the film itself. So I'm proud of that. And listen, for me, it was super cool to just be acting with those guys, on the same set. I was like, oh my God, learned a lot. So,
Well, I'm going to be honest. I had to look you up because your acting was so good.
well,
And I don't mean
appreciate
that to sound disparaging, but the truth was, it was kind of a
Thought it was
campy
gonna be
movie,
shitty.
and
Yeah.
the level of acting on it was solid. And a lot of B movies don't really have a solid acting in it. To me, the acting and the dialogue really lifted it to the next level.
That's
And-
one of the parts I'm the most proud of, honestly, is the fact that I feel like it's a pretty well acted film for, again, myself and Mike aside, we had great people. So,
Well, and the dialogue, by the way, is hysterical.
Yeah,
I mean,
it really is.
thank you.
Well,
Yeah,
that was my question. I love the banter, but all the scenes, like the scenes where they're in the dressing room and the guy's sitting in the toilet and the banter back and forth, I'm assuming that's coming right from the wrestling environment.
Yeah, oh yeah, absolutely. And you know, that's one of the things, and you know, I watched the show a couple weeks ago, so don't think that I'm in any way, shape, or form offended. But
Yeah.
you know, it kind of moves slowly in the beginning, but that's actually on purpose, because what we were trying to do, and I'll get into this a little bit more later, but you know, we really wanted to build that kind of behind the scenes independent wrestling world, because Mike and I had been in it so long.
Yeah.
And we felt like we needed to do that in order to kind of, you know, pull the curtain back a little bit and show that, you know, because I worked with guys like Greg Valentine and Coco Beware and, you know, Brutus Beefcake and all these guys. So every week I'd be in a locker room, there'd be some, you know, older WWF star that would be there. And so we wanted to build that same, but yet the locker room, I mean, half the time we didn't even have locker rooms, you know, when we would be working. So, you know, we really wanted to build that kind of independent feel to it without making it like The Wrestler or something like that, you know. And it's a little bit of a, you know, one of our Haley, you were talking about influences or you know, that kind of thing. From Dusk Till Dawn is a you know, one of my favorite movies of all time. Okay, and if you pay attention to that movie, the entire first, you know, hour of it is building up the brother and their relationship and how bad they are, so that when all hell breaks loose, now they're forcibly the good guys, right? Mm-hmm. And you feel some kind of connection. And it was important for us to build the rest of the guys up a little bit too, so that the you know, the deaths were a little bit more impactful. So that's the kind of plotting opening of the film.
The dwarf, I thought we were going to have a little dwarf zombie. So I was really surprised when he died. We just killed over and he was gone.
Yeah. Yeah.
We don't when we saw him.
Well, Chris, let me tell you, just to kind of pad the room here, you're talking to Scott, Rich, Bethany, and Alan, who all write zombie books.
Ah, okay.
So they were, I mean, if there was any, you know, kind of about it, it's because there weren't enough zombie killing craziness in it.
Well, so I'm not one to make excuses, but let me tell you that when you're making a low budget film, and this would be considered probably a higher budget, low budget film, it's you don't have a lot of money for visual effects and things like that. So we decided, instead of, you know, having a ton of them, we'd have the ones that we did have be as impactful as possible. So I would agree, though, I would have had more zombies. And by the way, I don't like sprinting zombies, and that bugged me about our film.
I think you did with the makeup, and honestly, it was gooey. It was definitely a gooey movie. So that's another question: is how, you know, for a high budget, low budget film, how much did you spend on the goo? Because there was a lot of it.
I should know this because I'm a producer, but I wasn't paying attention to budgets at that time, unfortunately. But we did. You know, I will say this: every single guy on this film that you saw on camera worked for scale. Not one of them took their regular rate. So, you know, they came in and did favors, and so we were able to save a ton of money on talent, and we put that on screen in other capacities. So yeah, that was by the way, everybody who's writing in, I'll get to all your questions, I promise, as we go.
Well, I was expecting that. Have you ever seen that movie where it's Dracula, Frankenstein fighting, all these monsters fighting, and it's horrible? And so that's what I was expecting when I watched this, you know, just from the title alone. And I was surprised. I was surprised. No, I was surprised, and I think I said that. You know, I was surprised. It was a better movie than I expected it to be. You know?
I hear that.
And it was Alan's pick.
Yeah,
Alan picked this movie.
Yeah.
So it's interesting. This is a question that I have to ask of you guys. I assume that when you do this show, you're kind of looking for the biggest turd you can find to basically, you know, kind of poke fun at it. Or
no,
absolutely not. No.
Sometimes we'll get like Sharkenstein. I mean, which is, you know, that's just ripe, you know, but other times we'll just, this one was a fun movie. So I thought I'd throw it out there and everybody would enjoy it. And they did to various degrees, you know, so.
Well, get ready, because when we do Vampire Deathmatch, it's going to be something.
Yeah.
Well, we're looking forward to it.
It's going to make that look like Pride and Prejudice. So and not Pride and Prejudice and zombies. The regular Pride and Prejudice.
So I gotta say, I was trying so hard to find that vampire one, and I didn't realize it was in pre-production. And I tasked my boyfriend with trying to find it, and this poor guy spent all day trying to find this movie. And I was like, "This is your one job," and he's like, "I can't find it."
You will not find it.
It caused a big disruption in my house today.
Oh, well, I'm sorry to hear that.
No, it's good. It's good.
I don't want that
And
to
then
be
he was
because
like,
of me.
No, he's like, it's pre-production. I was like, okay, all right, you're fine.
I wasn't part of the watching party, but I'm guessing the consensus was it was a slow roll, is what everybody was saying. For me, it wasn't. I came at it whenever I heard it was a wrestling movie mixed with zombies, and started watching it. I was fascinated from the beginning, honestly, because I love wrestling and I love zombie stuff. And the part when the great chorizo actually turns, with those three assholes or whatever.
Oh yeah,
that's just amazing. And that last look he gives whenever he looks up, that was awesome. I love that.
So are any of you guys country music fans?
Yes.
Yeah, I love country music.
Did any of you recognize the greediest of all the assholes? By the way,
No,
I did not.
Oh no.
That is Jay DeMarcus from Rascal Flatts.
Shit.
No.
Wow.
Yeah, who by the way wrote all of our music and all of the score for the film.
Wow.
How'd you get him? How'd you get him?
Another thing, the guy wants to get into acting, and Max knew him. They had done some stuff together, and he made one phone call, and Jay was on a plane to come play. God, what the hell's his name? Now I'm drawing a blank. Killing me.
he did a great job of being an asshole.
Oh, by the way, and what's funny is Jay is the nicest guy you would ever want to meet. And I'll if you guys want to hear another long story, I'll tell you a really good one. But he's such a great asshole. It's unbelievable on camera. I mean, if you met him, you could not believe he could even do that. So
tell us a story.
Yeah, the story.
So at one point in time, I walk in and we're all at Video Village. There's three of us, and we're around the cage, right? And there's Jay DeMarcus sitting in his chair. He's covered in blood from the scene where he's just got ripped to shreds. And Dave Meadows, who plays Carson, the crippler Murdoch, is standing right next to him. And I'm in there sitting on a bench, sweating my ass off because I'm wearing leather the whole time and just trying to catch my breath and get something. And they start talking. And Dave says, "Oh, hey, man, I heard you from Nashville." And he says, "Oh, yeah. And Dave says, "Oh, well, is there any work down there?" And Jay's like, not much. I'm kind of half trying to get into this. And he's like, "Oh, you do something else?" He's like, "Yeah, I'm in the music business, And so Dave's like, "Oh, what do you play?" And he's like, "Well, I kind of play everything, but I play bass. I'm in a band." And he's like, "Oh, what do you guys do? Like local pubs and stuff like that?" And he's like, No. And he's like, "Well, so what? Like theaters?" And he's like, "No." He's like, "Kind of bigger venues than that." And Dave's like, "Well, what's the name of your band?" And he goes, "Rascal Flatts." And Dave goes, "Like the Rascal Flatts?" And he's like, "Yeah, the Rascal Flatts." And he's like, "What's your name?" He's like, "Rascal Flatts is my favorite band." I'm like, "Well, how do you not know this guy then, if that's your favorite band?" So anyway, it was like this chance meeting of you're my favorite band, but I have no idea. It'd be like if I met Bruce Dickinson from Iron Maiden and had, no idea who the hell he was, "Oh, you're in a band, huh? What are you guys playing the pubs?" So funny Jay DeMarcus story, but Jay is an awesome dude and a great actor. Yeah, he was great.
The wardrobe, was it intentional? Because in the zombie attacks and things of this nature, leather would probably be the most critical thing to wear to fend off bots and stuff.
It was not intentional. It was only intentional in the sense that, the idea was we were kind of, this sounds stupid, so we were kind of trying to create this low-level superhero look and a reason for the guys to be in their wrestling gear the whole movie. So it's why we set it, inside the arena when we're getting ready to do it, so nobody has any time to change or anything like that. Obviously, as you go along, subconsciously we figure out, yeah, it's great to have the jackets on, right? Because nobody can bite through that. Although Boss Rutan bit all the way through my jacket when we're in the scene in the hallway, and actually punctured skin.
Oh man,
that's how method Boss is. If you want to know about another great actor, the guy's unbelievable and one of the toughest men on the planet. But yeah, so it didn't really work all that well. but that was the plan. So
tell me about the spooky mask.
Well, what would you like to know about them?
I want to know more about the spooky mask. And
Well,
was it
the
just
idea
a toss away?
No. So the original intention, again, I was mentioning the Santo and Blue Demon films from way back when. So Mike and I thought, okay, nobody's ever going to go see a movie with two complete unknown idiots as the leads, right? So we cooked up this idea that we would wear masks the entire film until the very end, the last 30 seconds of the movie. So there's an exact replica of the blue and silver ones that are black and white that match the Manson brothers colors. And the idea was going to be that we're in the masks the whole time, even if we go to a restaurant, whatever, we're constantly wearing masks. We were going to do these parts like the shower scene. They weren't going to show our faces, and then we turn around and have the masks on. So we're in rehearsals, and we're like 3 days from shooting, and we've been rehearsing without the masks the whole time. And finally, I said, we should really put the masks on so we can kind of get used to this, right? We put the masks on. We do the first rehearsal, and I look over at Max Martini, who's the director, and he's just like this. And I look at him, and I'm like, what's wrong? He's like, all the comedy is gone. There's no facial expressions. We got to come up with something different. So the point of it originally was I was still going to get those silver and blue masks and come back, and the idea and the masks are literally the exact same pattern, everything. And the idea was that Mike's character would be pissed off because we have these new masks that actually look exactly the same. They're just different colors. But without being able to emote and things like that, the comedy was wrecked. And so we scrapped it and rewrote the whole thing in 3 days to not have masks. But the idea, to answer your question, is that nobody really knows if they do have any mystic action going on or not. That's kind of the point. And in subsequent films, etc., which we've already written, we dig a little bit deeper into that. So that's great.
Ooh. I was going to say the zombies kind of
subsequent
avoided
films.
We have a couple of scripts and a series kind of pegged out.
Awesome.
Based around all of it. So
very cool.
That's exciting.
I can't wait for Satanic Vampire.
Yeah, it's I can tell you the gore level is up to the nth degree, and unlike the first film, we don't really have to develop the characters too much, so it's just kind of a, pardon my French, fucking roller coaster from minute one. So yeah.
Is it going to be is it going to be like a continuation kind of from this one, like the same type characters moving in this universe?
Absolutely. Yes, absolutely.
All right.
Yeah. One of the cool things, so, give you a little inside baseball. We never actually wrote the comic book part.
Oh.
We had instead shot this entire kind of montage of us from our young careers, moving our way up, winning the championships, and then subsequently my character just going on a downward spiral, getting arrested, going to jail, getting kicked out, and all this thing. And we got a call about 2 weeks after, we shot from Max, and he's like, this is not working. And he had this idea. He's like, I want to set it around a comic book and make it, this is the first of the series of the comic books. And we're like, oh my God, that's awesome. So we were never even involved in anything that had to do with shooting the comic book scenes. The first time we saw it was the first time we screened the movie. But I thought it came out great. And actually, it really does a wonderful job of kind of creating, I hate to use the term universe because it's so overused, but of creating a little, plus it gives you a ton of flexibility with what you can do when it's a comic book and it's not, quote unquote real life. So
you guys are kind of like the evil Princess Bride type of concept. And it worked. Yeah, it's cool.
No, thank you. I appreciate it.
Yeah. Good work. You guys had a really good camaraderie. I can't speak on the you and that was great.
Thank you. Well, Mike and I have been friends for a long time, so that fortunately it comes kind of naturally. And I was happy that it worked out, honestly. So, and he does a very good job. My character is a lot closer to my personality. He has to actually play a bumbling idiot all the time. Which, Mike, if you're watching, is somewhat close to your personality. He just does a great job. I mean, he's awesome at kind of playing that, goofy character.
He nailed it. He really did. It was great. So did you. You guys, you work really well together, actually.
Thank you very much. That's the idea is to kind of make it like not like Dumb and Dumber, but the whole concept is basically like hit a comedy, hit an idea. The one thing we really wanted to do was not make it like, we didn't want to make the zombie parts comedy. You know what I mean? Like we wanted the gore to be gory, the action to be intense, but then the comedy bits kind of unintentional, I guess, more like conversation.
Like the comedic relief, pretty much.
Yeah, exactly. Give you a little downtime. So.
Yeah, the banter between you two was one of the best parts of the film.
Thank you very much.
It's a delicate balance to find that kind of comedy that works in horror. Yeah, and I think that y'all were onto something. And I'm going to say that you probably heard me say this on our show, but I love the fact that y'all use real makeup effects. Because I really feel like FX is overdone. And unless you have a huge budget, it's just lost. But the art of real makeup in horror is just amazing. And
our makeup team and effects team did an incredible job. I mean, I can't say enough about the entire crew that worked on this film. I mean, if you would have seen the place that we got to be an arena, it was an abandoned middle school cafeteria that they turned into an arena. I mean, everybody was on. There were times I would go to Video Village, and see it on the monitors, and then I'd walk into the room and be like, "This is not the same room." It didn't. But on camera, I mean, that's why they call it movie magic. It's as much about that stuff as it is about the acting or the writing or whatever. Because if that stuff falls down, the whole movie just, pardon my French, takes a crap. And everybody just did. I mean, half of our guys went on to do a $100 million Tom Hanks movie after they were done, and so it was like, it was unbelievable.
So was a lot of the movie filmed in a school, or was it just like that cafeteria area?
Almost the entire movie the entire movie, with the exception of the scene where I go to get the masks, is shot in that abandoned middle school. Oh, wow. So, we shot the film in a town called Espanola, New Mexico, which is about 45 minutes outside of Santa Fe. And it's one of the poorest cities in America. And so and it's got a huge drug problem, just tons of stuff. And so the mayor kind of welcomed us in with open arms to rehab, this school, because they were getting ready to turn it into a lowrider museum of all things. So we came in, did all that stuff. I mean, and we really pumped a lot of money into the local infrastructure. Like one night, we were shooting, it was 2:30 in the morning, and our producer had called the local Domino's and said, "If you'll stay open, we'll order 300 pizzas, but we got to order them at like 1 in the morning." And he's like, "We're open," so it was incredible, the stuff these guys did.
Going back to the comedy aspect of it, I told you this before, but there was a scene that literally had me giggling like I seen my first boob. And
like I said, that's the biggest compliment anybody can say.
And it was literally the scene when Skull was dying, and he confesses to Stone that on his 25th birthday he bought him a prostitute, but as a male.
Yeah. Well,
I was like, that was one of the funniest things.
Nothing is off limits for the Manson brothers, sadly. We've heard about that one a few times too. So,
well, Chris, I'll tell you this. I think that you're going to find that, especially with this group, the more we watch the movie, the more we love it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, it's funny. Even I have said that when I watch it. Is you? And one of the things that I think is too that I tell people is watch it with the subtitles on, because you'll start picking up on stuff that you don't really see. And so like I've got a bone to pick with somebody about last week's episode that I only watched a little bit of, but I'm going to bring up something, so it won't be a dead giveaway. But Mike and I are real big fans of, as you can tell, dialogue, because that's what we write a lot of. But we like it to be, conversational, where you almost kind of step on each other some of the time, versus like I say something, I wait for you, you say something. It's kind of machine gun like, and you tend to lose a lot of things in that. And we would notice that when we'd watch screenings, people would laugh, and then there'd be another funny comment right behind it, and they'd totally miss out on it, right? So I think it's a good rewatchable, and I think it kind of ages well when you do that. So
for anybody that hasn't watched it, there's a very poetic scene in it that is probably one of the best transformation scenes I've ever seen, and that was when Stone's girlfriend turned.
Oh.
That
Broke my heart.
Oh, a little bit of sadness in the comedy.
Yeah,
Yep.
that scene though was amazing. Like the music playing, and then her looking through her eyes of everything changing, and then you just immediately ring your fucking bell with a literal bell.
Yeah.
Yeah, but how about the other one that coughed or whatever, and bam!
Yeah.
I love that. That was great. It's like
so when I'm smashing the bell, it's a CPR dummy, right? That we're doing it on.
Yeah.
And it's hard plastic. So the first time, I got my finger wrapped around that bell. So the first time I come down, boom! I mean, I dropped. I thought I cut my finger off. You know, it was that's the worst pain I had throughout the whole thing. Other than when Mike O'Hearn beats the shit out of me against the cage. That was the worst. And the wrestling parts. Oh my god. So. But I like that scene too, and I feel bad. Karen Corona, who's the actress that plays my girlfriend, which, you know, Karen and Corona the last few years is just not a good combination, sadly. But Karen is a supremely talented actor, first off, and she's great physical. It's a funny story. They brought in a stunt woman for her, and the stunt woman really wasn't pulling off the stuff. And she went to Max and said, "Hey, I can do it myself." And so everything you see in there is her doing the stunts, and she was insane. She was really great. So
that's great.
And she gave me a black eye too from the fight.
Were there a lot of stunt people involved in that?
So it's funny. We did actually have a ton of stunt people involved. I sat in the first day of the production meetings, and I looked at the line items, and I saw a stunt guy for me for 17 scenes. I won't tell you how much that cost, but it's a ton of money. And I was like, you do not need this guy. I can, you know, I was a wrestler. I can do this stuff myself. I did 16 out of 17 stunts, and they wouldn't let me do the last one. And it's literally like a nanosecond you see it on camera. But it was a potential concussion, and that shuts down production for a couple days automatically. So, you know, they don't want to have people out of work.
Huh.
Nice.
Fair enough.
Nice.
So what was the scene they wouldn't let you do?
So if you remember in the hallway when Boss is bleeding and we're all standing there and he comes after me, it's the part where he actually tackles me and you see the guy flying in the air before we go to the ground. And it was because of concussion chance. So off I went. So I'm still a little upset about it because I wish I could say I did all of them completely, but it's not that important.
Yeah, we won't.
But to answer your question, we did have a lot of stunt guys, and they're great stunt guys, including my good friend Freddie Joe Farnsworth, who is our stunt coordinator. And Freddie Joe's been on. If you guys have seen Overlord, he was the military coordinator for Overlord.
Oh, wow.
There's a great video on YouTube of Kurt Russell's kid talking about what Freddie Joe put them through for military training. You should watch it. It's very funny. But yeah, he's a great friend of mine, and we had some great stunt guys on the entire thing. If you recall the cage scene at the end where everybody runs by us, that was supposed to be like the coup de grace moment of the film, where it's kind of like, you know, now you're locked in the cage with the Manson brothers, and this is our house. But we needed like 20 stunt guys, and that cost a fortune, and we didn't have it in the budget, so we had to make some changes. I think it came out okay anyway. But.
Yeah, I love that part. Like, it's just like the what the fuck in your expressions was worth it.
I gotta say, for this movie, I know normally with Watching Wyrd, it's Hadley, Scott, Rich, and Alan. Like, you guys do these movies and come together. And this was the first movie, Chris, that we all, as a Wyrd group, got to watch together as a watch party.
Cool.
And I feel like this was one of the best films for us to choose to do, for Alan to choose for us to do this, because you have that just like almost cult movie classic build up that you're like years down the road, we're gonna be like, oh yeah, you guys see that movie? Oh, I know that movie. Like,
I have
yeah, like we're gonna
your
have
lips
that.
to God's ears, my dear.
Yeah, but like you have the action, you have the gore. Some of us want a little more gore, but we'll get it later.
Yes, you will.
Yeah, and you have the romance, you have the fun, just banter back and forth. I feel like this was such a good movie for us to have that first watch party on, and for you to reach out, I gotta say, like, I'm so excited to be able to talk to you right now. I'm like shaking. I'm so excited right now.
Well, don't be that way. Trust me, it's not that exciting. Ask my wife; she can tell you.
But like, this is just really fun, and I and Hadley put this all together, and I think this is just a great way for all of us to get together. And I want to thank you and your movie for doing all of this to bring us all together to do that, because I think this is just a fun thing to start for all of us to be doing. Especially
in this crazy ass world with everything going on, you know. We have heard on often. So we wrote this movie in 2014, long before the pandemic, long before there was any, you know, Chinese virus that was coming along. But we've had people say, "Oh, you hijacked the virus idea" and stuff like that, and we're like, "No. You know, it's almost like The Simpsons or something. We if it would have come out pre-pandemic, we would have predicted it. Sadly. But yeah, I'm really glad you guys watched. Actually, it's funny that kind of brings me to my story of how I stumbled upon this. You guys, actually, if you don't mind indulging me to tell this other short story.
No, you're the guest.
So 2 weeks ago, so we have a show on. I don't know if you guys are familiar with JoeBlow.com, the horror movie review site, or it's actually just a movie review site, but it's one of the biggest ones out there on the web. They've got hundreds of thousands of subscribers. So they actually did the original review on the film. And gave us like an 8 out of 10. I mean, it was over the moon, and it really helped catapult us. So we kind of started developing a relationship with them, and they were spinning off. Their horror division is called Arrow in the Head, and it's arrowinthehead.com. So they were spinning off an Arrow in the Head YouTube channel, and they asked us to do a show in character for the YouTube channel. Thank you very much, Max. So we've been doing this show for about 20 some weeks, probably 5 or 6 months. And every time, you know, we do a show, I log in to see what the views are like. And I just so happened to log in on Thursday night to see where our views were at, because we do the show on Wednesday. And I'm typing in Manson Brothers show, and down at the very bottom of all the Manson Brothers things, it says Manson Brothers sequel. And I'm like, who in the hell is talking about a sequel? So I click on it. And the first thing that popped up is your show, and it was just over. Like, it had been over for like a half hour. So I was like, well, I better check this out. So I immediately clicked on it, started watching, and I just was having a good time watching it the whole time. So I decided to leave a comment. But to that point, I really appreciate you guys, you know, reviewing it. And one of the coolest things that I found throughout this whole process, even good reviews, bad reviews, is, you know, there's a community out there of people who now review movies that don't, you know, it's not like Siskel and Ebert where the Manson Brothers is going up against, you know, Schindler's List, right? And they're judging every film on the same merits. You know, there's people out there that love this kind of content, and those are and people out there that hate it too. I mean, listen, you know, there's people that think the movie's awful. But the people who really dig this kind of content have been very positive about it. And that's cool to see that there's so many people out there that actually do movie reviews. Guys like yourself who, you know, have been more than gracious to let an idiot like me on their show and babble. And
you just hadn't watched enough of our shows.
So. Well, yeah, you guys know me. Like I'm like an hour and a half in. So, you know, I figure we're even now.
We love it. Like Bethany said, we love having you on here.
Well, thank you very much. One other thing, I watched last week's show. Somebody on here was bad-mouthing John Carpenter, I think, or I can't remember who it was.
That wasn't me and Alan.
Was that Rich? Rich, was it you?
Chris. It was not me.
It was not. Okay.
No.
All right.
I know who it was.
So I'm just going to tell you that like 4 of my 5 favorite movies of all time are Carpenter movies. I'll let you guess which ones they are.
Oh, we need to have a beer. I need to have a beer with you. Oh,
The Thing has got to be your favorite Carpenter film.
No, but it is in my top 5.
All right.
Tony's a rat. Tony, you're a rat, man.
Alan, was that you?
Yeah.
yes, it was.
Chris, I love John Carpenter. I just feel he gets these ideas. They're cool ideas too, you know. They're like things when you're a kid, you know, you'd like to see, you know, cowboys and vampires, you know.
Yep. Okay.
And he gets involved, then he stops. and he's like, you know what? There's something over there I want to do. So these movies just kind of go. I mean, with the exception of The Thing, Halloween, Big Trouble in Little China is its own.
You didn't like The Fog?
The Fog, what a great flick!
Alan,
here's one thing I will admit to you. I will tell you, Alan, and people are going to crucify me for this. I am not a fan of Big Trouble in Little China.
No,
I'm not.
Oh, Chris, you broke my heart.
I'm sorry.
I watched it night before last.
But on that note, I will give you my top 5 films of all time. Actually, I'm going to give you my top 4. The first 3 I cannot put in any particular order. It just depends on the day. So I'll start. Escape from New York. From Dusk Till Dawn, as I mentioned before. And Assault on Precinct 13. The original, not that remake piece of shit that came out later.
Right.
And then number 4 would be The Thing. That's my. As a matter of fact, this year I got to go take my daughter to see The Thing in a movie theater, and I had never seen it in a theater before myself. On Father's Day of all things, and it was like the greatest experience of all time.
Yeah,
that's
So
funny,
what's
Chris,
number
because my
5?
son took me on Father's Day to see it.
Oh, really?
And when he turned like 13, it's a ritual at our house to watch The Thing.
Yeah.
And he said, I never saw it the big screen, Dad. I want to go see it. I'm going to take you. And because I was probably 19 when it came out, and I went to movies and saw it, and I didn't know it wasn't a hit because my buddies all loved it. We saw it like 3-4 times, you know. So
it wasn't a hit because E.T. had come out like the year before, and everybody wanted the touchy-feely kind of alien.
Yeah.
They didn't want the shape-shifting alien that was gonna turn you into a guy with a crab hand or whatever. And
I'm going to defend Alan for a moment. I think what he means is they kind of fizzle out, unlike Manson Brother Midnight Zombie Massacre, which can do
Get your shovel.
You guys put together a better cohesive movie than some of Carpenter's movies. And I'm not saying that because you're right there, but
I appreciate that very much. But
you had a beginning, middle, and end. You know, some of his movies have a beginning, a middle, and you know what? The guy dies and nothing's resolved.
I mean, but you got to keep in mind that his biggest influences are like Rio Bravo and things like that.
Well, he's constantly remaking Rio Bravo, you know.
Well, and you may or may not notice this from the film, but like my favorite thing in the world is the anti-hero, kind of guy. So Snake Plissken, Seth Gecko, R.J. McCready, guys like that. Napoleon Johnson from Assault on Precinct 13, almost kind of the original. I love movies like that, and that's Rio Bravo, right? So,
well, isn't that like your tagline, like rooting for the bad guys?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It's time to root for the bad guys. So, yeah.
So
to be honest with you,
number 5? You said 4. What's 5?
Number 5 again depends on the day, but I will say it's probably the original Halloween because that's
a good choice.
Yeah.
But like I love Halloween 3 too, and I love The Fog, and I'm just I'm a horror movie idiot and that kind of thing, so I kind of like it.
You're in the right place.
Yeah,
And I
But then again,
this.
Dawn of the Dead, the original Dawn of the Dead, is absolutely one of my favorite films ever.
From Dusk to Dawn is one of my all-time favorites.
Mm-hmm.
So kudos for that.
That movie from the get-go, the minute I saw that live, George Clooney had only been on ER, right? So everybody knew him as the nice doctor guy, and I was like, this guy is going to be a movie star. It was obvious. So
You can see a lot of inspiration from that in your film. The whole brotherhood, the whole kind of first half of the movie building up with the brotherhood, and then the action starts like there.
That was a huge influence of ours.
Yeah,
that's 100%.
So people who are fans of oh my gosh,
From Dusk Till Dawn.
Yes, thank you. Sorry, too much whiskey. But yeah, like people who are fans of that will definitely be.
Now I'm jealous now. I don't have my whiskey that I would usually have on one of these.
Yeah. No, it's my night. I get it. So.
What kind of whiskey, if you don't mind me asking?
Jack Daniels. I'm a Jack girl. Yep,
right.
classic.
I like
when I'm feeling fancy.
Oh, see, I go Gentleman Jack when I'm feeling fancy.
There you go.
Oh, yeah.
There you go.
Somebody
Yeah.
had made the connection of saying that it was in the same vein as like Tucker and Dale versus Evil. I would put it up there. Like that's probably one of my favorite movies, and
I
this
think I
movie
like it
has
better than
fallen
Tucker and Dale.
in that same category.
I have heard that a lot. It's funny, and I had never seen that movie until after I started hearing that, so I went and watched it. I really enjoyed that movie from the standpoint that, you know, everything bad is happening and nothing is really bad going on. Like, I thought that was such a awesome undertone for that whole movie. They just did a great job on that film.
I love that, man. But I put this right up there with it for sure.
Well,
how did you fund the film?
How did we fund it?
How did you fund it? Yeah.
Well, it only took like 5 years of toiling and doors getting slammed in our faces and all these things. Here's there you go, Stoli. All right. Probably the best value in all of alcohol, by the way, is Stoli. By the way, people, remind me of the stuff you ask in case I forget. One person asked when I wrestled. It was between 1997 and 2002. I guarantee, unless you are a fan of Midwest independent wrestling, you will not know who I am. Everything I did is on VHS. That's how long ago it was. I did one show for the WWF when it was still the WWF. So, funding. So, another funny story. We had raised about a third of what we wound up making the movie for, and we were going to shoot the film in Chicago. So I flew in to do some casting to do this thing completely independent. We had some great people. I fly home. I wake up the next day to an email from my partner to all the people that we had auditioned. You guys were great. We're going to do this movie. And I'm like, oh no. So I call him up and I'm like, dude, you cannot send an email out like that. And he's like, what are you talking about? They were great. I said, what if Max Martini calls us tomorrow and says, you know, he wants to make the movie? Then we're going to have to tell all these people that they can't be in it because it's totally different. He's like, that's never going to happen. No bullshit. One day later, he calls me and says, are you sitting down? And I'm like, no. Tell me what you're going to tell me. He's like, Max just called me, and he got a 3-movie deal from the distributor, and he didn't like the first one. He said, I got 2 guys that have a way better movie. They said, go make the movie. So
awesome.
Nice.
After 5 years of toiling, you know, I mean, listen, again, it's not a massive budget by any means. I mean, by Hollywood terms, it's low. By the terms of a lot of the films that we're talking about, it is not. But you know, we were just very fortunate. It's kind of funny because it's not like we were lucky. You know, we worked at it for 5 years, but you know, we kind of got that break that we really needed, and it helped out a lot. And again, you know, got us a bunch of talent we'd have never had in a million years. So
that's great.
No, it works.
Definitely. But it sucks. I mean, listen, we were funded and ready to go for number 2. I was 3 weeks from moving to New Orleans to shoot the second one, and the pandemic hit. And the company that, and we were going to make it for double the budget. And the company that financed it not only went out of business, but they stole all of our portion of the money. So we're in a lawsuit right now. Yeah. So, the good times of the movie industry.
So are you going to film in New Orleans?
No, it's looking like Vancouver, but we're not 100% sure yet. So we are awaiting final word. I will. Another good story though is this: the original was supposed to be in Chicago. Max had just done a movie in New Mexico, and said, "Oh no, we're not shooting in Chicago. We're shooting in New Mexico." So Mike and I had like 3 weeks to rewrite the entire movie around New Mexico. And then move there and, you know, start shooting a movie. But I will tell you, I love New Mexico. I lived there for 2 months. It's a magical place. The people and the talent there are unbelievable, especially the crews that they have there. It's a wonderful place to do films for sure.
So I know Rich talked about your inspiration for the movie. What actually prompted you to go from wrestling to I'm going to write a script? Like what? Where did that happen?
I had written a script a long time ago that I lost, believe it or not.
Oh, no.
After I got out of, I actually have the hard drive, and the guy couldn't recover it from the hard drive, which is killing me. But after I got out of wrestling, I got married, and, you know, my wife and I had a child. And one day I was just super bored. And there used to be this thing called the Chicago Reader, which was just like, free rag that you get around town. And I was flipping through it, and in the back, there was an open casting call for something. So I went on this audition. I hated every second of it. I was like, oh my God, this is awful. But in that time, I had submitted my stuff to somebody else. And I went in and did an audition, and I got a call back for it. And I came in second for the part, and the director told me, I only gave it to the other guy because he looked the part more than you did. But he's like, don't quit acting, keep going, So I was like, kept forging ahead. And then, like I said, when Mike and I got, when I saw Mike again in California, we just decided, we have to write, like, we were never going to audition our way into leading roles. We needed to write something for ourselves. And that was really, the impetus was, let's write a story that's, sadly about us. That's sounds as egotistical as possible, but, in this day and age in the movie industry and independent movies, I mean, you kind of have to wear every hat or you'll drown, and so it was a big part of it.
All right, so we got 4 zombie writers here. Why did you pick why zombies?
Why did we pick zombies? Well, it was actually pretty easy. We figured like we needed a Venn diagram of the 2 biggest demographics we could get, right? And that was zombies and wrestling. So we're like, okay, what's the hottest stuff? And this, again, think back, this was 2014. So like The Walking Dead was huge, all that kind of stuff was going. And we figured that's the biggest carryover. So we went audience based. Thank you, Max.
Hey, Chris, when did your movie really start to take off? When did it really start to get a following?
Well, so we shot it in 2019. We wrapped like almost a year ago now in 2019, but we hadn't picked a. That's exactly right, Max. Right, what you know. That's another thing that helps. And the more you know your characters, the easier the dialogue is. That's a biggie. I'm sure you guys know that. But we had, we had wrapped in 2019. We were negotiating with a lot of distributors, and then the pandemic hit. So we decided to sit on it because we figured that nobody was going to be making movies for at least 6 months. And when we could release this whenever we wanted to, so that there was no competition for it whatsoever. And so I think that really helped us get a following because there wasn't a whole lot of other productions out there. Mike and I do festivals and that kind of thing. So we've kind of picked up a little grassroots following from that, of meeting people, and we try to be as engaging as possible despite our personality flaws. So yeah, just, and it seems like everybody we talk to though wants to see a sequel. So we were lucky to find kind of partners that are ready to do that as well.
I want to see a fucking saga.
Oh my gosh. I almost forgot my other shameless plug.
So what about the Elvis movie?
Well, don't even get started on that. That's actually a documentary or mini series, and it's kind of a it's dead in the water at the moment.
Okay.
But it's a very intriguing idea.
I'm interested in hearing
Elvis
more.
Meets the zombies.
By the way, have you guys seen Agent Elvis on Netflix? If you're into Elvis,
No.
oh my God, it's so good. You have to watch it. It's a cartoon. It's animation, and Matthew McConaughey voices Elvis, but he's a secret agent, and it's fucking great.
Well, Chris, I cannot thank you enough for doing our little show. And
yeah, this has been a blast. I apologize for like commandeering the entire show, but
that's what we wanted. We wanted to hear you talk, and anytime you want to come back, anything you want to plug, always let us know. You got an open door here. We would love to see you back. And
if I missed anybody's questions that wrote in, I apologize. I'm really sorry.
Yeah, I was going to take a few minutes and ask if anybody had a question for you to speak up now.
For sure.
But yeah, we're super excited that you contacted us at all.
Well, again, I really appreciate you guys reviewing the film. That kind of stuff for us, is fantastic because it gets it out there to more people to get a chance to see it. And we love interacting with everybody and particularly people who have watched the film, good or bad. It's it's always fun. And listen, it isn't a perfect movie. No movie is, except maybe like Shawshank Redemption or Escape from New York. But there's a lot of, and in Escape from New York, the president was foreign, which that can't happen. So like even it has its flaws.
Mike,
Alan, I'm not taking your seat from you, man. No matter what.
Hey, Chris, can you keep us updated on your sequel? Because we would love to see your sequel. So could you keep us
absolutely,
updated?
yeah. Oh, yeah, for sure. As we get closer to it, I'll definitely message you guys and let you know what's going on. Thank you, Tina.
Hey, if you want an extra that'll work for free, I know a few guys that'll jump into
Girls.
it.
Girls.
Well, we'll keep you posted on that because we always need free extras. You guys are going to have to make your way to Canada, and it's not difficult. And they're serious about keeping their Canadians in their acting spots. So
I bet.
I'm dealing with it already. So
just so you know, I do full nudity. So
say no
I
more.
won't be watching the movie.
Well, if you notice, we do have some full nudity in the first film.
No, we
So
noticed.
even though it's prosthetic, we're not immune to that either. Yeah.
Well, Scott does his own real talk, and you'll have to get in touch with him and maybe do an appearance on his show as well.
Would love to.
It's a little more formal than ours, but
that's okay.
We try to keep
I can do
things
formal too. I'll put a bow tie on or something with my t-shirt.
Or a prosthetic.
If you don't mind me plugging, and again, it's not up.
No, go right ahead. I was going to ask you, just plug everything you got going on.
Yeah, MansonBrothers.com. You can get some cool merch like this, coffee mug. We put the FU in fun, if you can see that. And it says Manson Brothers on the other side. We have T-shirts. We sponsored a NASCAR back on Halloween last year at Martinsville. We have die-cast cars that are actually exact replicas, the die-cast is in the NASCAR Hall of Fame. Don't know if you guys are into that kind of thing. And hit us up on the socials, man. We love to chat, and we got nothing better to do but hang out and do podcasts while we wait for our impending films and shit like that. So.
Yeah. No, thank you for coming on, Chris. We really
guys, it's been a blast. I love doing this stuff, and you guys have been awesome. Again, I apologize for commandeering the entire show.
No,
that's what we wanted.
The stories are entertaining.
That's why you're here, man. That's why you're here.
Well, thank you.
Like I said, anytime you want to come back, let us know.
I would love
and
to.
keep us updated on the sequel.
As we get closer, we'll coordinate something. Yeah. We'll have another chat. So
good.
And bring your friends.
I will. We'll get Mike on next time too. And,
that'd be great.
That's it. Thanks,
I bet
Tony.
You guys are a hoot together, So
well, depends on who you're asking and what the situation is, and how much I've had to drink. That makes it more of a hoot usually. But
well, I think Alan and Scott are about to start doing a bad movie night on the weekend, like every 6 weeks or so.
Now that I would like to show up for too. There's nothing I love more than poking fun at stuff. So
if
you guys want to
see the movies we pick.
What's your favorite bad movies? I'll ask that. What's you guys' favorite, like what you would consider bad movie?
Sharkenstein.
Oh, God.
Sharkenstein. Okay.
Guys, while
you're thinking, I'm going to make one more quick plug. Please check out the Manson Brothers show on the Arrow in the Head Network channel on YouTube. Arrow in the Head, Manson Brothers show. We cover movies that are our favorites. We just had Mark Ralston from Aliens on.
You just talked about Slither, right?
We did just talk about Slither.
Yes,
yep, exactly.
Oh, Slither's awesome.
A very underrated film, by the way. I love that movie.
Love it.
Miami Connection. That's mine. Miami Connection.
Miami Connection? I've never heard of it, but it sounds like a bad movie. So.
Oh, it is.
Wolf of Snow Hollow is probably mine, but I love that movie.
What's it called?
Wolf of Snow Mountain, was it? Or Snow?
Wolf of Snow Hollow.
There's one I see all the time that I can never remember the name of it. Oh yeah, Sharknado. There's one I can never remember the name of, but it's like kind of a steampunk Frankenstein movie with Nazis. I like to kind of watch anything that has Nazi occult movies.
Frankenstein's Army?
Yes. Frankenstein's Army.
We did it.
Oh, did you really?
We did it. It's all
It was
Scott.
actually kind of stylistically cool. I mean, it wasn't a great movie by any means, but the look was kind of, it was intriguing. So
Very
I like
cool.
all that shit too.
Ash has got it. He's Thanksgiving.
I haven't even heard of that. I'll have to check it out.
We do turkeys at Thanksgiving. We call out the bad movies turkeys. And Thanksgiving is one of the movies that we did.
Well,
Scott is known. Scott has a reputation for picking
bad movies.
The worst of the worst bad
All right,
movies.
well, Scott, since you know, what's number 2 on your list then? If it's after Sharkenstein, is it like Santa Jaws or whatever it was, or
The Loss of Pasta?
Which one?
The Loss of Pasta. It
Oh,
was
The Loss of Pasta.
It was about
yes.
You know
I've
it.
heard of it. Yeah. I do.
So bad.
It is so bad.
So bad.
When he becomes a pastor, he wears one of those inflatable dinosaur suits. And at the end of the movie, he's fighting 3 vampire ninjas in this suit. It's horrible.
That's my kind of bad. There's a Poultrygeist.
Yeah,
Guys, that was my pick.
Dude, man, I'm missing out. I got to get out more.
Oh, that's a trauma film too. That's one of those trauma films.
Yeah.
All right, kids. Well, that's going to
That was a
wrap
good
it us for tonight.
Thank
Chris,
you so much,
thank
guys.
you again.
Thank you, Chris.
And
pleasure.
we'll see y'all same time next week.
Ciao.
Thank you.
Take it easy, everybody.